Alright, well, making these kind of response videos are fun. Verlisify just can never seem to quit while he's, I guess, behind because he's not ahead. But this here is another video where he's trying to defend Pokemon Sword and Shield by bashing on Pokemon or Super Smash Bros. Ultimate simply because they reuse models, animations, and other stuff. And if you look here, you can see that Charizard's tongue is coming out the top of his head. I never actually noticed this, but it's something that happens when he does his landing lag from down air or something. It's probably not something the devs ever knew to add, or it's probably nothing the devs knew to look for. But apparently this has been going on since Brawl, and I never even noticed it in that game, and I played the crap out of that game. So we're just going to see what Verlisify is going to be talking here. I'm going to turn the volume down just a little bit because it's pretty loud in my ear. And for context here, I watched the video once. I wanted to make sure I knew what I was getting myself into. So I'm rewatching it now, and I'm going to be responding to the points that he's making.
Stop. Before you leave a dislike on this video without watching any of it, I need to make it clear, I don't think that Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is a lazy game. The point of the video is to compare Ultimate to Pokemon Sword and Shield and really show the hypocrisy of people that are all up in arms against Pokemon Sword and Shield but didn't say a word about Super Smash Bros. Ultimate when Ultimate is doing the same things, if not worse, than what
Okay, so I want to know what these things are that they're doing worse.
we already see with Pokemon Sword and Shield. For example, things I learned. When Charizard is in landing lag from his down air, his tongue clips through his head. Well, this was in Super Smash Bros. 4, but it was also in Brawl. So the
Okay, so this is just a question to everyone else. What do people have a problem with? Charizard's tongue clipping through his head, or whenever Charizard uses a fire attack, it comes out from like the top of his head? Like, which one is a bigger problem here? Because I honestly didn't even notice this until like he said something about it. And apparently the community's been talking about this for a while, like 3 years ago. Like, what? Yeah. I'll take this over fire coming out from nothing above a Pokemon's head on a Switch game.
animations from Brawl and Super Smash Bros. 4 were the same, and these animations are still being used inside of Ultimate. Are SSBU models recycled from past games?
Yeah.
Remember a post on Twitter comparing Charizard's Brawl model to his Ultimate model? Both had his tongue sticking out of his head. Now, I couldn't locate this Twitter post, but this is what's happening. We have animations being used from Brawl, as well as models being used from Super Smash Bros. 4, yet no one complained, no one got upset.
Actually, people did complain, and this was actually one of my main criticisms on Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I honestly thought the game was a port based on what I had seen of the game at that time. And even now, I still consider Super Smash Bros. Ultimate an enhanced port. Now, after playing the game, my view on that changed. The game is a lot faster, things are a lot cleaner, animations are a lot better. 3D models look a lot cleaner. They use appropriate models based on the character the game came from. So there's a lot of stuff here. Yes, these type of games reuse assets. Fighting games usually reuse assets all the time. No fighting game is like Mortal Kombat 11, which was completely rebuilt from the ground up with new assets and everything. But Japanese games tend to reuse things when making the next game, so it's easier for them to make a new game as opposed to having to start all over. I don't necessarily care for it, but it's just how it is with Japanese games.
No one's in outrage despite Ultimate having less content than Pokemon Sword and Shield, but it's just completely unacceptable.
Wait, he just seriously said Ultimate has less content than Sword and Shield. I mean, this Smash game here, when compared to all the other Smash games, is probably the biggest Smash game in Smash history. I mean, everything that was in any Smash game is here, so by default, this means this is the game with the most content. And looking at how Pokemon games usually make their games, there's probably not going to be a lot of content. I think what they've been showing off in the game so far is everything that's going to be in the game. Maybe there's a post-game area, Maybe there's a battle frontier, but there usually isn't more content than that. The game with the most content in it, I believe, was what, Pokemon Emerald. Was it Pokemon Emerald? X and Y was lackluster. Sun and Moon didn't really do much. Uh, Pokemon Black and White 2 had enough content, but I don't think it was more than Emerald. Hmm. Wait, didn't Ruby and Sapphire have the Battle Frontier in it too? It's definitely a Game Boy Advance game. Has more content than the stuff we're getting now.
Freak is lazy, Nintendo's controlling them. This is just the death of the Pokemon franchise because animations are being reused in a character game that has over 900 characters. And if for some reason you're not convinced by that, or that's like, oh, it's only like one or two models being reused, so that means it's still way better than Pokemon Sword and Shield. I saw this video from Larry Lure, and
Oh yeah,
my
this one.
jaw slammed to the floor. This video is why I'm making this video. Why I'm
Yeah,
confident
this
in
here
what
is
I'm
this
saying.
is pretty bad.
Dude,
Like,
it's the same arm wiggle. It's the same animation from Sheik. Joker is the ultimate Echo Fighter when you look at this. I mean, and you can just kind of
okay, so for perspective, right? I don't know anything about Joker. I've never played Persona. I have no interest in playing Persona, and I really don't have any interest in anime games based on high school. I think that's what I know about Persona. That might be completely wrong, but I know nothing about this series or how this character would play. But reusing animations here again helps save on development time. I don't know anything about this character to really know about any of that stuff, but he's comparing it to like the animations that Hal and the new characters in the game. That exact same. I'm doing the motion, but you all can't see it obviously, but same running animations being used. A character will run like a foot, stop, turn around. Just that same stuff that we've been seeing in 3 Pokemon games. And this here to me doesn't look bad. When I saw the character for the first time, I immediately got like Sheik and Zero Suit Samus vibes, simply because that's just how they seem to design fast, thin characters in this game, is to play like this. And I personally had a problem with all the sword characters in the game. Like, why are there 5 Marths on the roster? I know people will say, oh, well, there's not 5 Marths, they all play differently. They don't play differently enough for my taste. They're 5 Marths.
keep looking at the animations. Oh no, don't give us the up air. It's not going to be the exact same, is it? Oh my lord. I mean, this almost this entire video. Like, there's some things. It's either the same style of
I
attack
think the
or it's
Robin
the
here
same
was
animation.
reaching.
Like, see, that's the same kind of attack, but it's not the same animations. Like, all right, cool.
Yeah,
You gave
that's a
Joker
reach.
a few unique animations for being a completely new character. But yeah, it's like, oh, I have a reflect, and then comparing that to Palutena's moveset. So it's also just not a lot of creativity and moveset diversity, and then comparing it to Falco's forward smash.
Yeah, no, that one was bad.
That's this is insane. What we see right here.
Yeah, that was pretty bad, but it works. All right, so this point here, he's just saying that how his attacks are similar. Again, I don't know anything about this character, so I have no idea how he plays. But sometimes you just can't avoid doing things like that. This is like having 2 boxers in a fighting game and then complaining when they're similar to the other boxer that's in the same fighting game. That'll happen. I think my main problem with Smash characters is the over reliance on counter attacks and reflecting attacks. Simply because it feels like at times you can't approach a character or attack them because they hit a button counter and it accuses you. I think Palutena's counter is less offensive because it doesn't seem to have the sheer knockback that a lot of the counters in this game have. But I've noticed the huge amount of counters that characters have.
Come on, people will defend that over Pokemon Sword and Shield. Really?
Yeah,
It's ridiculous.
how's it
Okay,
ridiculous?
this is the one that got me. I didn't even watch the rest of the video after this, because do you really need to watch the rest of the video after this?
Yeah, you're making an argument.
That's
You have to have a full argument.
that's indefensible if you are saying Pokemon Sword and Shield is bad for reusing animations.
I mean, literally, most of the back airs are the same.
Don't. out. And what people were saying is that Mario and Lucas have the same knockback animation. So I mean, like every aspect of animation, or almost every aspect of animation, in some way has been reused. So yeah, like with what other people were saying, the animations for a lot of characters just kind of blatantly being reused, victory screens, and then even when characters are holding items, also what we just saw there was just wrong. So I that left me speechless. And I want to kind of keep going further with this because I forgot how long it's been since Super Smash Bros. Brawl came out. Quick question. When did Brawl come out? 2011? 2010?
No,
No,
it's old.
2008. We have over a decade of reused animations. People didn't get upset with Smash 4. People didn't get upset with Ultimate. And then when you look at some of the
See, like the reason nobody got upset at Smash for Ultimate is because Sakurai didn't come out and say, "Oh, we have to remove a lot of the aspects to the game simply because we want to make the game better. We want to change the animations. We want to do all this." He never came out and said that. He straight up said that they're going to be using Smash 4 as a foundation for building Ultimate. The Pokemon Company said, "We're cutting down on Pokemon. We're removing certain features so we can have better quality animations that are more expressive, better graphics, and stuff like that." They're the ones that said that. And we see the game, and we're not seeing these higher fidelity animations, the more expressive animations. We're not seeing better looking graphics. We're not seeing any of that stuff. Sakurai, had he said that, this would have been, a shitstorm too. But he didn't come out and say that. He just made a game and released it. Actually, he went out of his way to make the game different enough so people couldn't even call it a port. Like, I'm convinced that Sakurai died making Ultimate, right? And Cloud had to come in and use a Phoenix down on him so he could continue making the game. Like, he died making this game and had to be brought back to life to finish it. That's the kind of dedication to the work that we're getting here. Not only are a lot of the models newer, there's a new lighting engine that the game has going on. I personally think Smash 4 looked better in the lighting department, but this game has better animations. Actually, the animations in this game are a lot more expressive. You really see that expressiveness when you look at Pikachu's animations and Sonic's animations. Like a lot of the ending frames of animations have been completely changed or added. He added in every single character that's been in Smash history, every single stage, every soundtrack. I believe every single item is here plus more. Like, this game is just, you really can't call this game lazy. You can't do that. You cannot compare this to Pokemon Sword and Shield. Why are they removing Mega Evolutions from the game? Mega Evolutions were well received by the entire fan base. Why is it that when a Pokemon does an attack like Double Kick that they hop up for a second and then a footprint appears over the opponent? Where we have animations back in Pokemon Stadium that are way more over exaggerated and expressive than what it is that we have now. Why are we still getting this sprite based animations? And we can't even say that that's a problem, because when they had the animated sprites, they changed the animated sprites every single game. Somebody had to actually go in and draw those sprites. Somebody had to reanimate all of those sprites, and it wasn't a problem. So why is it suddenly a problem now? People are saying, okay, we wouldn't have cared if you didn't say that you were removing things because you want to make it better. We're saying all you should have said was, we just don't have the time to put every Pokemon in to rebuild the engine that we want to use and release it in time. So we had to remove some things. People would have still complained about it, but that would have been that. It would have came out and said, we simply just don't have the time to do it. And we don't feel that it's necessarily important enough to tell the story that we want. We'll add them in at a later time, maybe make a new version at some point, or release DLC packs where you get the Pokemon that you want. They literally did that with the Mega Stones. But they came out and said, we want to make the animations better. We want the graphics to be nicer. We want more polish in our game. So we had to remove some things. That's what they said. but what we actually see is the things that you're trying to defend. I mean, there's no contest there.
Articles that ended up coming out about Super Smash Bros. Ultimate as well. Sakurai says Smash Bros. Ultimate is built off pre-existing Smash games
Yeah,
rather than creating a completely new game system. Work started in December 2015.
yeah.
So 3 years of work went into Smash Ultimate. This isn't like a large pinnacle game building up onto Nintendo Switch that this is, 4, 5 years of ultimate dedication put into the game. No, it's just 3 years. Pokemon Sword and Shield has been in development for longer than 3 years. So Pokemon Sword and Shield is a larger game that has more work into it with less
Okay, I'm letting him finish this point. I'm letting him finish this point.
reused assets. And even when articles like this came out, even when people were breaking down the games and looking at all the new things, there was no outcry, there was no outrage, there was no boycotting of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Geez, it's really hard to like stop the video and find a point. He just keeps going. What was I going to say? You know what? Let's go back a little bit because I completely forgot my point. Waiting for him to end the rambling.
With less reused assets, and even when articles like this came out, even when people were breaking down unacceptable for game.
All right, right. I remember what I was going to say. Like, Verlisify, you do understand how that's worse, right? You do understand how, presumably, this game being in the works longer than Smash Ultimate looks, right? You do understand how that's worse. The fact that the game has been in development longer, we don't know. Their time frame is 2019 now, but what you're saying is they spent, presumably 5-6 years building Sword and Shield for the game to look the way it does. With all that time, that's the game that we're getting. Keep in mind that when they start releasing demos for games, demos are a representation of the actual final product. It's not an alpha or beta build. The demo is the final game, just with a part of it that you can actually play. So what we're seeing, game footage, not final, sure, some things can change, but Pokemon game footage hasn't changed much in any game. Right now, Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee look much better than Sword and Shield do. And that was just a throwaway game for them. There's no excuse for a company to spend 6 years making a game and then it looks the same. It looks like a upscale 3DS game. Did you play Duke Nukem Forever or know about that? How that game was in like development hell for the entire time. It's like 12 years or something like that. Then they finally released it and people weren't happy with it. That's what looks like is going to happen here. You spend 6-7 years making a game and it doesn't look like you spent 6 or 7 years making a game. Okay, I don't know what your point is, but okay.
Free to reuse animations on hundreds of characters, then say it was necessary for Ultimate, and Ultimate is still a much better game, a higher quality game with much more work put into it.
Yeah.
When all of the numbers just state that is factually incorrect. And I'm also not a person that's like, oh, it's just a port. That was another thing that when people first saw and were first discussing about Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, they're like, well, it's just a port, right? No, I acknowledge this as a new game, but it's not a completely new game. And a lot of
Yeah, so I call it an enhanced port.
it doesn't have the same engine. It doesn't have the same mechanics as Super Smash Bros. 4, and it is a little bit of that hybridization that people are wanting between Melee and Super Smash Bros. 4. Now, it is more on the 4 side, but Ultimate does play a lot differently, and that is something that shows that, a lot of things were redesigned. The same thing for Pokemon Sword and Shield. Pokemon Sword and Shield is an entirely new engine, which is also why the models had to be rebuilt.
How do you know it's an entirely new engine? Because what I'm looking at the exact same engine from the 3DS games. The fact that all the animations translated exactly 1-to-1, that's not how that works in a brand new engine. You do understand that, right? The only thing that changed is the Switch is capable of more details than the 3DS. So maybe as before they didn't have a good lighting engine, now the Switch has a much better lighting engine, so things are going to change. But that doesn't mean just because an attack is a slightly off red color doesn't mean that they actually went in and made it a slightly off red color.
And it's easier in that way to just port over some of the animations, but there's also a ton of unique animations in both Ultimate and Pokemon Sword and Shield. I was just kind of going through and I found a lot of articles, reused idle animations when holding items for certain characters. Something that's it's minor, but has really bothered me since Ultimate's launch is the fact that certain characters use another character's idle animation when holding an item or reuse their old one from a past game. Characters that do this, a lot of them. And then look at this long list of either recycled or copied animations, and I'm probably missing some characters, is what people have been saying. Inkling Boy uses Inkling Girls too. I probably got carried over because devs thought it looked fine as is. Not everything needs to be updated.
Yeah, it's true.
Where is this common sense in the Pokemon community?
But see, look, see, the thing that you're choosing to not see here is the developers for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate didn't say they were removing things from the game to make it better. Pokemon, the developers for Pokemon Sword and Shield said that. That's what they said. Don't get the two mixed up. You don't have to update everything. Sonic is going to play the exact same way he did in the last game. He doesn't need to have all his animations remade just so you can say, oh, well, we remade his animations. Guess what? A lot of the characters did get updated animations. Pikachu's Neutral A, completely different. I mean, every character's animation, like their pummeling attacks, back airs, they have different ending animations. Like Sonic, when he does his homing attack, poses out of it when he hits the opponent. He didn't have that before, but that exists in all the Sonic games. So what they did with the animations in this game were make them more appropriate for the character that's using them. They didn't have to do that. They chose to do that. And the game looks better as a result because of that. What about this? Aren't you understanding? One company made a claim about something. We saw the product and we're saying, okay, where's this claim at? Another company didn't do that. Everybody knew that Smash Ultimate was being built on top of Smash 4. People knew there were going to be some changes. There are going to be people who are going to have problems with that, like they say, but nobody cares about that, right? Nobody cares that a character might have another idle animation of another character holding an item. How many people are even going to play with items to begin with? And that's not an argument to say, I'm not going to use that as an argument saying that that's okay because nobody's using items. But a lot of people aren't even going to see that animation. Like, I didn't even know Charizard's tongue came out the top of his head. That's new to me. But that doesn't ruin the game for me. It doesn't. There are a lot of glitches in animations, and especially in this game, you got people pushing like 5,000 buttons in a second. You're going to get some really odd results.
Where's the lack of hypocrisy in the Pokemon community, or the toxicity, or all of that? That's why I need to remind you guys to leave a like on this video. People don't like such inconvenient facts.
He loves plugging his numbers in his video.
We need to get the truth out there. Post it on Twitter, spam it in Discord, spam it in Facebook groups. Get this video spread around because YouTube's not going to promote it with how many dislikes and low watch time it's going to get from toxic people. So it's up on us to actually get this out there and show people the truth of Pokemon Sword and Shield. And
what truth?
Not everything needed to be updated. Yeah.
Like what truth about Pokemon Sword and Shield? We already know the truth. The developers made a claim to something. We see the product, and I'm just gonna close my door real quick. Cat came in. Like, the developers made a claim about something. We are calling them out on that claim. We are saying, okay, why do 3 models look the same if you said you remade them? We're not stupid. A lot of us make 3 models. A lot of us do 3D animations. A lot of us do texture and weight mapping. We know how this works. You just simply don't make an 3D model identical. You just don't make an animation identical. There's a reason why Pidgeot's 3D model had to be remade, completely remade, because they could not use the same low quality model that they had in the new games and then port the animations over. They had to completely rebuild that model. And you can actually see the difference if you look right now in Pokemon Battle Revolution. Look at Pidgeot's 3D model, and then look at the Pidgeot 3D model from Pokédex 3D Pro. You can see the difference. A lot of those Pokemon have been ported over. Lucario has the exact same models and everything from Battle Revolution as he does now. He has the same animations. Sometimes you have to remake something. They're not doing that here. Everything is an exact one-to-one copy. And people are saying that they're remaking the textures, and I don't really have any way to disprove that. I honestly don't think they're rebuilding textures, remaking them. They're simply just changing the rendering engine, and they just look better as a result. That's honestly what I think they're doing.
No, it doesn't matter that Bunnelby has the same recoil animation when Bunnelby is going to be a very seldom used character when you compare the millions of people that are going to be playing the games and the billions of battles that are going to be happening over the course of Pokemon Sword and Shield's life.
Okay, so like I said before, I didn't want to say it is okay for the Smash characters to reuse animations while they're holding an item, simply because nobody's going to play with items. A lot of people are going to see that, and a lot of people are going to notice that. But for a lot of people, that doesn't matter because it still looks believable. They're not saying they redoing every animation to make them feel better. Sakurai didn't make that claim. The Pokemon Company did make that claim. They are saying we're having more expressive animations, better 3D models, better graphics, better everything, which is the reason why we're removing features so we can focus on making the experience as best as it possibly can be. So for a person like me who might not get their favorite Pokemon in this game, which is part of my pleasure, my experience with the game, I see these animations, we see these animations, and we're saying, okay, so my favorite Pokemon might not be in this game because you say that you're redoing animations, but I'm seeing the animations and they're the exact same. The 3D models have the exact same tessellation that I've been seeing from the 3DS on the Switch, and they're even more apparent when you use the Dynamax feature. So if you're not changing anything in the game, or at least to me, because I can see these things, which everybody else who's being honest with themselves can't see, if I can see, or at least if I think that none of these things are being changed based on what I can see, then why is my favorite Pokemon not in this game? You said Pokemon were going to get removed for a better experience, but I'm not seeing the better experience, and now my experience overall is going to be much worse. So what's the point here?
Lifespan, you don't need to have Bunnelby, a pre-evolved, non-competitive Pokemon, to have
That's nothing to do
all
with
these
competitive.
over-the-top, crazy animations like we see in a game like Pokemon Battle Revolution, even though Battle Revolution had a smaller roster and had 95% less content than Pokemon Sword and
Okay.
Shield.
Okay, so what does the smaller roster have to do with anything? Um, Pokemon Sword and Shield was what? Diamond, Pearl, Platinum. Um, that was about what, 490 something Pokemon in the game, I want to say. So about 490 something Pokemon, almost 500. Um, and the Pokemon were a lot more responsive, a lot more animated, a lot more everything for 500 Pokemon. And a lot of them had the exact same animations, like Pidgey, Pidgeotto, and Pidgey. I believe they all had the same animation set. But when a Pokemon did a double kick animation, it looked appropriate. The 3D models made contact. But here we're not seeing that. And you're saying, well, because it didn't have as much content as, a game possibly now, that makes it okay. Well, no, that doesn't make it okay. If I'm spending $60 on a game, I want to have the full experience. I'm not the one that's making them, release these games with all this content in it. I simply want a complete product. Everybody else wants a complete product. So just because one game might not have the same world as another one, and it's just battle simulator, but it's not like the fact it was a battle simulator mattered. What about what's the name of that game? Pokemon Coliseum, Pokemon XD Gala Darkness, complete worlds that you can run around and walk in, with unique set pieces, with these exact same animations. So, like, what's your argument here for this? I'm not seeing it.
where you can actually only focus on the battle animations and what's happening inside the battle. Expecting that Pokemon Sword and Shield is just complete nonsense, and the game's quality doesn't go down at all by reusing Bunnelby's animations because it's perfectly serviceable, much like all of the other
Well, no, it doesn't.
animations, and not including the older Pokemon that got updated animations as well.
I'm saying, but like, nobody is saying that the animations remaining the same is ruining the quality of the game. We're simply saying again, because it's like probably like the third or fourth time I've said this already. They said that they're removing content from the game to have better quality, more expressive animations and such. We're not seeing this quality. That's the reason that they're removing content from the game. That's all that we're saying. If they never said that they were going to be removing things from the game because they want to have more quality in the game, nobody would care. Nobody, because they're not making a claim to anything. If somebody makes a claim, we're going to hold them up to that claim. That's just simply how it is.
So we can like keep going down into all of these examples. No character uses the same model they had in Brawl. Yeah, but they're still actually reused models from Super Smash Bros. 4. There are a lot of them
So,
that are recycled from Smash 4 with new textures.
yeah,
Charizard sticking his tongue through his head is an example of reused animations, which there are plenty even from Brawl.
exactly.
Overall, the game's been sort of building the same foundation that I can tell. Some models, animations, sound effects, and especially victory themes have been carried over and touched up a bit with each release. With a roster this gigantic, I don't blame them at all for doing this. So let me get this straight. A game that has only 74 characters with less than a dozen of them being new is allowed to reuse models and animations. Now, I also know that people are going to say,
Well, no, it's not that we're saying that they're allowed to reuse animations. They never made a claim saying they were removing things from the game to make it better. You understand that, right? When I play Sonic in Ultimate, I expect the exact same character that there was in Brawl, the exact same character that there was in 4. And there have been different changes. But all these characters have lots of different animations that are all unique to the attacks that they're using. It's not like in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate when Charizard does a flamethrower, it comes out from the top of his head. It comes out of his mouth like you would expect that to be. Now, keep in mind, Charizard is the poster boy of Pokemon. Like, if they're not doing anything but like Pikachu, now Eevee, or Mewtwo, they're doing something with Charizard. I forgot to put Lucario and Greninja in there, but they're doing something with Charizard. So you would expect, arguably one of the top 5 Pokemon that the Pokemon company loves showing off, especially when you're showing off a new mechanic in a trailer. You want to make sure that it looks good. They put that scene in there with Charizard, one of the Pokemon that one of the important people in the game has in Dynamax form, using a fire attack and it coming out from the top of his head. I mean, yeah, it takes a little bit more work to, move it down a little bit for that specific Pokemon, but why would they want to do that, right?
well, what about the Pokemon and Pokeballs? What about the assist trophies? I mean, most of those are the exact same mechanics, exact same models, and exact same animations.
Yeah, there's no
So
problem
a
with that.
majority of those are being recycled as well. That does add to the roster quite a bit. However, it still doesn't compare to Pokemon, which is going to have 500 to 600 characters still inside the game, even with the national dex cut, and then not counting the hundreds of moves, the hundreds of new moves that are going to be added in, all of these specific stats and abilities that need to be balanced for each character, and not to mention the largest interactive region that's ever been made inside of a Pokemon game that is split between normal Pokemon adventuring as well as a completely open world element that has.
I mean, you make it seem like open world is new. They've been making open world games since the N64, at least semi open world. Like, the open world in this game is probably on par with The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. We actually have much bigger open world experiences that are appropriate for something like the Switch. But you don't see that. You're like, oh well, it's just the best that the game is that the game has had, and it's like,
Pokemon game that is split between normal Pokemon adventuring as well as a
like
completely
he made a claim
balance
here.
for each character, and not to mention the largest interactive region that's ever been made inside of a Pokemon game.
Yeah, like, you have to balance a game when you make a game, especially there's going to be PvP elements in it. You just simply have to do that. But the Pokemon company has billions of dollars. They've got like what, $21.6 billion in the bank or something like that. They've got a lot of money. So what's to say they pay 1,000 people? They just bring in 1,000 people, pay them like a short wage or whatever, and just tell them make an animation for every single attack that the Pokemon learns. Like I said before, I will be completely willing to make all of Pidgeot's animations for every single attack that it learns, so that way the Pokemon feels more expressive, more alive, and that wouldn't even take like a percent of the money out of their bank account. A lot of American game companies do this. Grand Theft Auto 5 had 1,000 people working on it. They don't have 1,000 people working for them at all times, but they hire in, they bring in the help when they need it. NetherRealm Studios, they rebuild every single Mortal Kombat game from the ground up since Mortal Kombat 9 on the PS3 has been rebuilt from the ground up. Very minimal use of reusing assets. They even built their own like fatality engine. They call it the Gore-Tex system. It's pretty cool. And they make updates to that every single game that comes out, so they can make sure that they are giving the most shock experience to the fans, because when we see a new game, we want to see what the fatalities are going to look like. We want to see, how gory they're going to be and all that other stuff. And they always manage to surprise us every single time they make a new game. Like when I was looking at the fatalities in Mortal Kombat 9, I was like, this is going to be the best fatalities that the game is ever going to have, probably ever, because they just been working on that Gore-Tex system. Then Mortal Kombat X came out, and I saw the fatalities on that game. I was like, holy shit, these fatalities in this game are probably the best that the series is going to see. And then Mortal Kombat 11 came out, I saw the fatalities in that game, and they keep winding themselves up. Like now you can like see the fat cells in the characters. You can see all the internal organs like modeled now, like lungs get removed and all the other stuff. And they just keep one-upping themselves. And when Mortal Kombat 12 comes out, it's probably going to be even more impressive than that. And they make these games like super quickly. Now, American game companies do have a problem with crunch times. There needs to be some kind of union in place for how we treat our game developers here. But in Japan, this is fine. Nobody is saying that when you make a new game, you can't reuse assets. I mean, why not? They're your assets. You made them so you can reuse them. It's the whole reason of making 3D models, is so you can reuse them. We're not saying every single thing in the game needs to be new. It absolutely doesn't have to be new. But don't tell your fans that we're removing things from the game to provide a better experience. And then show us, look at this. This screenshot here isn't, the texture quality that I would expect to see on a next generation console. I just wouldn't expect this. Breath of the Wild, an amazing looking game. And I see this here, and I just see a 3DS game with the sprite shader turned off. That's honestly what I'm looking at.
Game that is split between normal Pokemon adventuring as well as a completely open world element that has Pokemon running around and engaging with all kinds of stuff like that. It's pure hypocrisy. This all started only because of the National Dex cut, which isn't even that big of a deal because a majority of the Pokemon are still going to be in the game, and all that it means is that you're going to be able to appreciate each of the individual Pokemon more. Competitive Pokemon battling is going to be
Nobody cares about competitive.
enjoyable.
No, it's not.
You're still going to have the rest of your Pokemon in the next 1 to 2 years as we get Diamond and Pearl remakes and the enhanced.
Like, you do understand having to wait 1 or 2 years takes a lot of time off your life clock. We're not immortal. A lot of people watching this video are probably not even going to live to be 55. And for a lot of people, that's 20 years down the road, maybe even shorter than that. So we're saying we want to bring our Pokemon with us, because a lot of us have memories with Pokemon. A lot of people have loved ones that passed on, and they keep their memory alive by bringing their Pokemon to the new region. That means a lot to some people. You don't understand that. You just care about competitive. Well, even in this game with a limited roster, people are going to pick the exact same limited Pokemon. Right now, I'm looking at a Tyranitar and what's that? Palpitoad? No, people are going to use Tyranitar. People are absolutely going to use Tyranitar because Tyranitar is good. A base stat total of 600. That's good. The ability to turn Sandstorm on. So we're probably going to start seeing Rock Slide spam teams like we've been seeing ever since in VGC. Instead of people using Lando T, it's just going to be Tyranitar. Like, competitive is not going to change at all. It's the exact same thing that's going on now. That's not fun.
Sword and Shield. So you're being really bratty if you're crying about not being able to play with one of your 10 favorite Pokemon for only a year when they're going to be available in the next games.
No, that's not the way you do that. And there's nothing bratty about it. People have their favorite Pokemon and they want to use them in the next Pokemon experience because that means something to people. Me, I absolutely love playing through the new Pokemon game with a Pidgey. That's enjoyable to me. And they're saying that I simply might not have that because they want to have better quality animations when I'm not seeing it. Like, look at this. This looks like a 3DS game on the Switch. That's honestly what that looks like. It's like that game, Life of Black Tiger. That was a mobile game that they put on a PS4. That's what I'm looking at here.
Doesn't make any sense. So after that happened, people started nitpicking. Oh, look at that tree. Look at this beta demo gameplay tree. That's like the worst thing I've ever seen in any game ever. This is Nintendo 64. When ignoring the 99% of other incredible, innovative, new things that Pokemon Sword and Shield is doing, while also having more gameplay features and more gameplay than any other main series Pokemon game, but apparently having the best graphics, having the best gameplay.
We're gonna go back here.
Things that Pokemon Sword and Shield is doing, while also having more gameplay features and more gameplay than any other main series Pokemon game, but apparently having the best graphics, having the best gameplay, that's not enough to Pokemon fans. But when Super Smash
Jeez, I missed the
fans,
screenshot here. All right, look at this right here. This is a prime example. For those of you who played Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, you had two bikes you can get. You had the Mach bike, which was incredibly fast, hard to control, but it opened up certain paths that you could take in the game. You could ride up slopes, ride over the breaks in the ground. Like, there were cracks in the ground that if you walked over it, you fell through. The bike let you get through those. That's how you had to get Rayquaza, as a matter of fact. And you had the Acro bike, which was a performance-based bike that did tricks. So you would hold the B button, I think it was the B button, and you would do a wheelie and you would hop on certain things. And you would have to hop on certain stones that will allow you to go certain places. Now, that's not nothing you can do with a bike in real life, but for the purpose of the game, it was cool. But you can only hold one bike at a time. And the mechanic was the same. It's a bike. It lets you do certain things, but they evolved that mechanic. So now you would have to go back to the bike shop and swap bikes if you wanted to do certain things. And some puzzles weren't solvable without it. Here, they, instead of, making surfing a part of the game experience, where you have to bring certain Pokemon that can, ride on the water. And they're doing this because, they're right that people have a lot more games to play and they don't want people having to dedicate themselves to doing certain things. But they made the bike able to ride on any terrain, and it simply just transforms. So essentially, I'm looking at it as, what's the point of having water if all I have to do is get this bike and it does everything? Now, we don't know anything about this bike yet. We don't know if you have to buy upgrades for the bike to be able to do this. And if that's the case, then just ignore everything that I'm saying now. But based on what we have seen in this game so far, as long as you're on your bike, you can literally ride on any surface. And if that's the case, then why have the water if it literally doesn't matter? You'd have to get a Pokemon and surf on that Pokemon in order to get places. Now, instead of actually making Pokemon models, like make the Pokemon that you want to surf on appear in the overworld, they took this route, which still makes it feel lazy to me, because we see Milotic here, and you can absolutely ride on Milotic. I don't know what the other things are in the background. It's like they might be Mantikes, but you can absolutely ride on Manaphy or Lapras. You still might be able to do that, but this here is the problem here. They're removing things that people liked. People liked the Mach bike. People liked the Acro bike. It meant you couldn't do everything as soon as it started. People liked the sword feature. I was actually hoping you can ride on Mega Pidgeot too, because it's like over 7 feet tall and it seemed appropriate. But You know, why not let us ride on the backs of Pokemon and have them, you know, soar around the region, fly over things? You know, why is it that here, because we're not seeing Pokemon following you in this region anymore, they took it out of the game, which was just in the very last one on the Switch. You can ride on Pokemon and fly over certain obstacles. Like, why isn't it like those are good additions to the game, but they're not here? But we have to call Sakurai lazy. We have to say Smash Ultimate is lazy because they reuse things when they literally gave us everything in the game.
More gameplay features and more gameplay than any other main series Pokemon game, but apparently having the best graphics, having the best gameplay, that's not enough to Pokemon fans.
It's not enough.
Super
If
Smash
your game
Bros.
still looks like
Ultimate
shit, it
is
looks
like
like shit.
is it fair to say a majority of their content?
Yeah.
If not majority, a very large amount of their content, you know, it's unacceptable. I don't even get it. I also found another post of people, you know, comparing the models in Super Smash Bros. Wii to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Mario's model has some significant upgrades. His proportions look slightly different. It could just be me, but he seems more nimble and well proportioned. That could make sense. Maybe.
Yeah, I actually think the lighting
I don't know
looks a
where to
lot
tell you
better
with this, and like
on Smash 4.
it's weird the extent that people go. With Pokemon Sword and Shield, people have taken a Let's Go model, which is just a modified 3DS engine, so it can't tell us anything about the models inside of Pokemon Sword and Shield. So people aren't
Well, yeah, it absolutely can tell something about the models being used in Sword and Shield because we see those models being used in Sword and Shield. You can actually look at the video that somebody made where it showed the Gigantamax Gyarados, the Gyarados from the 3DS, and the Gyarados from Let's Go Eevee, and they have the exact same tessellation, which isn't something you would see if they rebuilt the models. Like, I'm not going to tell you what tessellation is. I actually want you to look that up. I know you're not going to watch this video, but if you do watch this video, I want you to look up what tessellation actually is. I want you to do that. That's your homework for tonight, Verlisify.
aren't even fairly comparing the games. They're breaking down the models, they're breaking down the polys, and then they're overanalyzing it to every single detail. But with this, they're just kind of like comparing it and like, yeah, that's good enough. Just kind of say the models are the same or not. I don't get it. But also would make sense for Mario because he is in Mario Odyssey, and that kind of is an upgrade to his character. But then when you look at a lot of the other ones, you know, Mario Odyssey, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, but then Samus's model is pretty much the exact same. It's more smooth and has like less rugged detail on the armor. Yoshi's model looks pretty much the exact same. Kirby is basic. Now we also have the space animals. They seem to be quite updated. Looking
Yeah,
at
Fox looks great in this game.
seems to be the exact same with a lot of the animations and moves being the same as well. I mean, look at this. That crotch is an absolute disaster area, and they didn't even bother to fix it for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. That's like stretch marks mixed with something I can't say on a PG-13.
Yeah, that does look pretty bad.
Model looks pretty much
But
the same. It's like
that's what weight mapping
what
is.
they enhance the textures. You mean like they're doing with Pokemon Sword and Shield with also having the new lighting and rendering engine? So it's pretty much the same.
There's no proof that Pokemon Sword and Shield is redoing textures. There's no proof of that at all.
Same things for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Now I'm not going to go through the entire character roster because there's a lot and we've just basically gotten started, but I think you get an idea as to what's going on. As with a lot of these simpler characters, NES has very few visible fixes and just seems to benefit from the Switch's new lighting capabilities. So yeah, why would we need to have some of these simpler Pokemon be completely remodeled and over-designed for Pokemon Sword and Shield?
I mean, well, we're not the ones that saying they're being remodeled and over designed for the Switch. You're saying that. You're the ones that saying that that's what they did. We're saying no, they're not, because they don't have to.
The other 700 that would need to be remodeled and redesigned as well, not counting Dynamax, Gigantamax, new forms, and then
Those literally don't change.
Pokemon being modeled inside of Pokemon Generation 8 or Pokemon Switch. So it keeps on going on. Peach, I think, might be a little different. Bowser, no different. Ice Climber's no different. Captain Falcon, no different. Sheik model is new. Her appearance is based on the Sheikah armor from Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Makes sense. So yeah, we could go on all day about nitpicking Super Smash Bros. Ultimate into nothing, and also how like a lot of the training and single player stuff and all that gameplay has been reused, and potential like just reuse code in the fighting system or something like that. But I'm not toxic. I'm not calling Super Smash Bros. Ultimate lazy.
He literally just said he's not toxic. Oh, this guy.
I'm not here to hate on developers or anything like that, but I don't know what made the Pokemon community so toxic and so
You.
lost in this way and
You
so
made the
indifferent.
Pokemon community toxic.
And now, and even like people that'll defend Ultimate and then go against Pokemon because they like Ultimate more.
Well, no, I don't like Ultimate more. I think Ultimate is a trash game simply because none of the characters that I like are in this game. I went out and bought a used copy of Smash Ultimate because they're putting Banjo and Kazooie in the game. That's the only reason I bought the game. I had no interest in the game before that. But I see everything that Sakurai did. He put his heart and soul into making that game. It looks better. It plays better. It actually feels a lot like I'm playing Melee, just balanced. That's honestly what the game feels like. And the fact that you're trying to compare the thing that he died making, the game that killed him, to Pokemon Sword and Shield, because you're trying to look at this guy here. Look at this. They still draw on the textures. They draw on the shadows on the model. You can see that here. Look at this monkey right here. This dark green here around the eye. They still draw these on the textures. You can see this here. They still draw this on the textures, and that's not anything that developers do. If they were redesigning textures, they would absolutely remove all of these things here from the game. Nobody does this anymore. But they want to keep all the characters looking like they do in sprite form, except they're not using the sprite shader. This was fine for the 3DS games because they kept that shader around. They also didn't make claims that they were making things better. This here is absolutely not something that you'll see. Look at the background here. And I'm pretty sure this is whatever first saunas he's using now that's superimposed on the image. I don't know what that is though, but it looks like something he'd do. But look at these bricks here. These bricks look incredible. This detail here in the wood, but where's it at on the Pokemon? Like, why don't the Pokemon have fur yet? This here would be, I don't know if it'd have scales, but it seems like it'd have a smooth body, but it should be slimy looking. This thing here should have fur. Your art style has to absolutely match the world. So when we got all these, and I said this in the last video, that with your textures are this detailed, but your characters aren't, everything looks out of place. And that's all we're saying. If they want to give us a complete product, then they need to do it. If they want to say that we're removing things because we don't have the time, we would accept that reason. But that's not what they're doing. They're literally saying we're removing things to make things better when the character design is literally the same. I mean, if you're going to buy the game, do it. Nobody cares what you do with your money, but don't sit here and act like this here is like Game Freak's magnum opus when it literally doesn't look like it. That's the difference between Smash Ultimate. Sakurai could die right now and be happy that he made this game because he put everything he could into it. He went out of his way to do. He listened to the fans. He was adamant about not putting Ridley in the game, and look who we got. They said they would never put Banjo-Kazooie in the game. Look at what we got. Now I wish they would open up the roster more to indie characters. It would be nice to have Shovel Knight in the game as a playable character as opposed to an assist trophy, but he's there. What fan creations made their way into a Pokemon game? What indie stuff made their way into a Pokemon game? None of that ever did. So you need to, I'm done with this video. I'm done.